Otsu here. Who else would it be? This is Observations with Otsu on Monday, October 14th, here in the United States. I hope you are having a great day. The markets are looking great. First things first, we're going to talk about that. That's going to be the whole point of the video. The video is titled "The End is Near" for the Bears, and so we have a lot to discuss. There is some celebrations to kind of adhere to, but also understand that we still have a chance to reject here. But if we don't, things are going to be going very rapid, very fast. But we'll get into that. That's the introduction for this. We are doing Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana on the weekly. We are also adding Sui to the list. It is going to be a semi-permanent addition. We're going to do it for at least the rest of October. So far, I've had a unanimous approval of that, so it might get into the permanent rotation. It's like literally the only coin that's red as well. So we will talk about that. But this is the introduction. That's what we're going to do. Let's get started. Now, we don't have too many preliminaries. The only thing I really have is I got my private group. I've renamed it. It used to be called Nowhere HQ. I did some revamping of that, including some new benefits. And now it's called Apex. And so it's just Apex Trading HQ. I have a Discord for that. I will put a link in the description for that. There is a free version that everybody can do. That's where I do my request videos for altcoins. But there's also a paid version. It's only $20 per month right now, where we do altcoin videos mainly related to my journaling trades. I just added a small cap discussion slash, it's something that I'm directing, but people can take part in if they have their own coins. I just, I do ask for a little bit of, don't shill your project, but just talk about your trading situation with the small caps, and we have discourse with that. It's really good, actually. It's been doing really well. One of them that I actually discussed was Bongo, and it's up. It's basically done like 300 or 400% already. So since I shared it in the Discord, so things are going pretty well with that, and so we're going to continue with that. In addition, we are also doing. Um, I have some A-Rune bots launching. However, I'm doing more of a. I have that, but I'm also doing a lighter version, which I'm calling a screener, which is something that TradingView does. It's more of just data points instead of just like signals. And so those data points are going to be exclusively Arun data points, and it's going to be in the Discord. It's the literally the only place you're probably ever, as far as I know, literally in the entire world is going to find data points on Arun. It's going to start there in Discord in the private section. I'm eventually going to try to grow that to its own visual dashboard, kind of like what you see right here, or like I'm working on some dashboards and things like that. So that'll take a little while, but the data itself will be in Discord, right, until I can start integrating some AI stuff or APIs, I should say, and other things to an actual visual GUI dashboard. So I'm working on that. I do my own development stuff, and I've had people ask me those questions. I do all of my algorithms, I do all my scripting, I do all of my software stuff. It just takes me a little bit of time. One, because I'm not like a senior dev. Like I can do dev stuff, but very light dev stuff. And two, like I don't trust other people with my data, of course, if it's sensitive, right? So I just prefer to take a little bit longer, do it myself. Works out. So, and then I'm also able to do it cheaper because the paid group right now is $20. It's pretty freaking cheap. You can't really get cheaper than that. It's like less than a cup of coffee a week, pretty much nowadays, because coffee is like $7 a week, or just $7 per cup of coffee. However, I will be increasing the price as we get more and more features out. So I may wait to do that by the end of this year, but we'll see where that goes. So anyway, that's the preliminary stuff. What we're going to look at first is we're going to look at the total market cap, see how we're kind of doing with the market in general, and then we'll go into Bitcoin afterwards. All right, so as you can see, the markets are looking pretty good. We have quite a bit to discuss. Some of these coins we've talked about in our private channel that I should have mentioned, I guess, in the preliminary section, like Turbo, for example. But we'll, and when we talked about both of those. We have some meme coins as well. I actually have a new meme coin list, by the way, and this is basically part of it, and so a lot of these are doing good. Toshi was another one that we discussed. as well. And so I'm actually doing a new video series called Meme Coin Monday. So um, don't watch out for that as well. So that should be coming pretty soon. It's not just going to be charts because like observations with Otsu, I try to keep with just charts. But Meme Coin Monday is going to be charts, but it's also going to be discussion about meme coins, about Deck Screener, how to utilize them, small cap trading, things like that in general. That's been probably one of the biggest secondary things that people have asked me to do, and so I'm glad to try it out and see where that goes. So anyway, on to the total market cap and then the rest of the video. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the total market cap first. I'm going to do total and then total two. I might do total three, but we'll see we'll just kind of feel this out first. Then we'll get into the rest of the markets. So I want to cover the weekly. Actually, I haven't done observations in a while, so I'm going to cover the monthly today as well. And so here's what we got going on. We've kind of been in a consolidation period for really since February, March, basically the end of March. And so the end of March was really the top of this market. One thing that we can look at here is based off of this area. This is basically like a double top. And so a lot of people want to view this different ways. A lot of people, there are some people that think the top is in, and there's some people that I really respect that do believe that the top is in. And so that people are certainly entitled to their opinion, especially if they have analysis to back this up. It's neither here nor there for me. Like I don't have that particular interest to look at this on this scale with those kind of things. Historically as well, you don't really get double tops when it comes to high time frames, especially past the 1 week chart. And so they do behave differently, and that's a lot. That's the thing too. Some traders will try to scalp trade the way that they trade the daily and the weekly, and they don't do it. And it's interesting because a lot of people will avoid high time frames because they want to focus. Usually, it's because they want to focus on lower time frame plays or more instant, trades and gratification. They don't want to wait months for a situation. But the thing is, long term high time frame trades are actually easier to trade. So it's very interesting. Like people make these things harder on themselves, whether that's a cool factor or whether they're trying to get that, nice, trade, whatever they want to do. And it doesn't really do them justice most of the time. But anyway, this is what we got here on that zone. Other than that, there's not really too many clear levels. We have a 1 month bearish consolidation. Now, to be fair, consolidations like they don't really work as good on high time frames. I've noticed for Aru. Now that doesn't mean we can neglect them. We do have a consolidation in the fact for the past 8 months, so that's perfectly plausible. And so the issue with this is the consolidations work by a confirmation of two candles. So here you have the full trend. Here was the beginning of the consolidation, and here was the confirmation of the consolidation. So when you get to the third candle where this is continuously going down, where this should be even like this, but it doesn't have to be necessarily. Long story short, as long as it's kind of wiggling, that's good enough. That's just a sign that it's a choppy consolidation instead of a straight one. Because where you had this and this was a drop, that ended up crossing, right? But until then, this was a consolidation to here and then it dropped, where this one's more of a choppy consolidation. So that's why. So we're in the middle of that. We're at about 50% on the top side. So it could take. So what you usually do is take 50 divided by 7 because it works in 7 percentiles. And so if you take 49 divided by 7, you get 7. So it could take up to 7 months for this consolidation to break. However, these things tend to break about half the time. As you can see here, the lowest cross is probably right here at the 25 percentile. So that's going to stop that by about half. So instead of having 7 candles, you're probably going to have 3 to 4 candles to work with. So I would say, let's just say 3 months. So that's basically end of January. Or middle of January, you could see a completely new high on the total market cap. That's how I'm looking at that, and it could even be sooner, but we don't know for sure. RSI is up and just doing healthy, but not particularly any sign here. And for Aaron in particular on high time frames, it's honestly very easy. You just if you really wanted to just be like autopilot nearly. you just long when the A-run flips. So for example, it flipped bullish here, and so your price target is, let's say, right here, and then it went all the way down to here. And so even if you didn't take profits, you'd still be up almost 300%, right? And so it could be more if you did, of course. But like that's a very easy. I mean, could you have made more money? Absolutely, right? But this is completely autopilot, right? And that's the monthly. So just something to keep in mind. We did have a divergence here, so if you did get out in the divergence, then that would have helped you as well. So that is kind of the monthly in a nutshell. So not too much else to phrase with this. Now I wanted to go to the weekly to give a better time frame. This is very reminiscent of Bitcoin a little bit, but with Bitcoin here, and I'll go to the regular chart. Um, you had a very similar situation, but this was higher than it was for the total, right? So this was your higher, this was your deviation, this was a resistance. So what this is telling me is that altcoins were struggling around this time, and they still kind of are, even though the markets are looking pretty good. I think like the fact that everything is up like 5, 6, even 10% is really, really, really good. And a lot of bears have just been saying, "All right, this is it, this is it, this," and it's every freaking time. It's every time. Okay, when we were at the lows, people are saying, "All right, we're getting ready to go to 9,000, etc." You know, Bitcoin, blah 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 blah. And same thing here. It's like you should not. And I want to say this bluntly as I can, but as nicely as I can. So please don't take offensive to this if you fell victim to this. And it is what it is, right? But the thing is, you should never try to be bearish when we had one of the second largest consolidations in the history of Bitcoin. I know we're on the total market cap, right? But the time to get bearish was when we had a freaking divergence at the highs. Okay, I've said this so many times in my entire trading education, whatever you want to call it, history, by sharing these videos. Okay, for Bitcoin and the market cap, we had a bearish divergence here at the highs. At the highs. And so what I do is I mark this above 80%. So whenever you get a divergence above 80%, that is time to start getting the F out. Okay? And that has been the high and it's still the high. Now, if you were bearish there, then that's great. Okay? I probably wasn't as bearish as I should have been, but I was very concerned at that time. Okay? Now that we've gone down significantly, people are like super bearish right now, and I'm like, this is not the time to do that. Okay, so just understand that. Okay, you have to understand where you are in the market cycle. Okay, and so this is what I see right now. We had the bearish divergence here. Now that was the top of that was like 91, 92 RSI. The RSI is very important. It's very funny. You get criticism for RSI, but everybody uses it like it's the most common thing to use. Like, do people just use it on their charts and they just show it and they don't use it? Like, I don't understand. It's by far the most used indicator, but then no one wants to use it the way that it's intended or the way to take advantage of the trade. Okay, so if you are not using your tools to your advantage, you need to delete them off of your chart. Okay, so take advantage of that. Okay, and so I've gotten criticism, and it's been light criticism about my bullishness, and we have been up. Okay, like we are up 5 to 6 candles here from the lows. Okay, so that's how you got to play that out. Look at the RSI now; it's hovering above the 50. It's been above the 40 really this whole time, but it's been going back and forth between 45 and 50 since July. Okay, that is a key thing. So when we had a drop down here at the mid, and I understand this is the market cap, this is not the chart, right? But we had a drop down, we had a deviation here. So your deviation was this dip below, basically, right? And so the RSI still held the zone. Okay, that is extremely key. That's extremely key. It's holding, it deviated. It's game over for the Bears, more than likely. Like there's like a 1% chance that they have any chance left. Okay? And it's not because I want them to go down. Like who doesn't want bullish price action? There are people that don't, but it's like your upside potential is higher. And we've been in a consolidation for so long. It's time to move on. Okay, like I can understand thinking that we might go down, but don't be obsessed with going down when we've been going down for some time. Okay, that's not a contrary view anymore. And one of the biggest things about reversals is if you try to find reversals early, you are going to get made fun of. Okay, because you are early, and because people hate that you point that out. Why, that's why I literally got blocked by people when I bought at 16,800 because they wanted $9,000, $10,000 Bitcoin. Well, I didn't. I wanted to buy now, and it's not that I did or didn't. It's that I saw what the market was telling me, and then I took advantage of that. Okay, and who bought? I did. Who didn't? They didn't. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm not criticizing anybody. But when you get a bear div at the highs, we had a 3 week bear div on the highs last cycle top. No one wants to sell. Okay? But that's the time to move. So now we're kind of in a weird zone right here. And so what I wanted to add with the total in reference to what I said is this trend line. We're approaching this trend line here. And if we break above that, we are going back to 2.6 trillion dollars here. All right, so placing that into perspective, that's kind of what we see. We have the consolidation here. We got the trend line. If we can push above that zone, then we're good to go. Now, I really want to emphasize we are not there yet. We could easily reject here. And so please make that clear. That doesn't mean the Bulls are not necessarily in full control here, but things are looking much better than they have been for quite some time. And to think that we are just going to super reject here is really crazy. We're up 20% on the lows already. That was the time we tested the mid. I'm not saying that we can't go down. I think there's valid reasons for the people that do think we'll go down, at least some of them. But here's what I see on this. We also have a bullish, ARN consolidation on here that could lead to a cross. If we do, we typically rally. We've only had 3 this run. We've had one here that was basically at the bottom, and I'll go to Bitcoin right after this. But this was yours right here, about a 30% move, right? The next one was a little bit of a break even, kind of just looped up, and then it was short. The bearish price action was short lived, or maybe that was even a loss. But the third one was the most critical one, and that was about 120% on the market cap here. So we're talking about the total market cap, right? So keep that in mind. Crossing here on the weekly is a big deal. So anyway, that's the total. That's kind of like the whole idea of the bullishness that we're looking at now. Market's extremely strong. Bitcoin has just did a 5% rally on a Monday. Ethereum 6%. Solana's going back and forth between 5 and 6. So things are going really, really, really good. So anyway, so that's the total. I don't think I'll go to total 2 or nothing like that. We're just going to go straight to Bitcoin and look at these individually. All right, so let's talk about Bitcoin. We're going to be here on the weekly, but I'm going to visit the monthly here just for a little bit. I'm going to get rid of all the notes here. I like to redraw this, especially with a fresh chart. So right away, I see a few things that are worth really mentioning, and this is why if you've been patient with me this long watching the video, I appreciate you a lot, and this is why I focus on the monthly and mentioning things like how monthly time frames get neglected, because here's a very obvious swing high order block that retested the zone here, and swing high is kind of like a liquidity area that I don't know what the appropriate term is. That's what I've coined it as, but we have it down here. Excuse me. And we tested this zone here. We actually rallied, and now we're actually pumping through here. Now, I want to be clear. The monthly's not over. We have 17 days left. But if we do clear this is already a break of the zone. That's crystal clear to me. Okay, crystal clear. The last break that we had that did that was something like this zone right here, and the high of that was 34,000. And I know some of you probably didn't think you could buy there and thought it would retrace, and now that actually looks like a good deal, right? So that's the thing. This could actually be a catalyst for a long run ahead, and so we'll see how that operates, right? And so that's what we got on the monthly. That's pretty much the big thing on the monthly. And this, again, I can't emphasize this enough. We had a break above the zone. We never went down here. This was supposed to be our deviation marker. Yes, we went all the way down here, but we did not close below. If we did, that would be a deviation, and then the entire cycle would have been over. Literally, we were that close. We were super super close. Um, you know, we closed at 58,927. If we would have closed at like 58.6, so we're like let's just say $300 away from being a deviation, right? And so it may not played out. You could have had a fake out, things like that, right? But that's my emphasis, right? Is that that's how critical that was. And so that's pretty much the monthly. If we go on, and I did mention a tweet on the weekly or on the weekly as well about RSI Diz. I thought it was a monthly, so I'll digress from that. But I want to now look at the weekly. Now, with the weekly in mind, we have this marker here. That's this is basically the monthly playing out, right? Of course, and so we did deviate, and we actually broke below. We had no divergence, but we actually broke above twice, and so this is one reason why we're having such a complicated area right here, is because it's going back and forth with this. But what we need to know, and that's why people are having um, alternating ideas on the market. I'm not concerned that people are flip flopping here. This is one of the justifiable areas where flip flopping makes sense because it is going back and forth. I was bearish here because we had the deviation. Then we pumped, then we deviated again. I'm like, all right, now we're bullish again, and now we've been bullish ever since. But what I want you to know on the weekly is so these levels don't really matter too much. Like I said, the monthly kind of maps that out. We had the bear div here on the monthly. That's started the consolidation, but now we have a trend line here, very much like the total market cap, and we're right on that. Okay, if we close above that on the weekly, it's game over for bears. It's game over for bears. Okay, because we had that here. Okay, I could show you the times that we've had this. This is more of a horizontal one, right? Okay, we had another one here, and so this this could map out like so, but this is a diagonal one, right? And so that's how we're navigating with that. I mean, you could even try to do something here, but it doesn't really work, right? So I'll just disregard that. You also had another one like here, and so these are key regions that are very crucial, right? And then you also had, if you want a diagonal one, here was a really good one, right? And so that was a key range. If you really wanted to do a diagonal, you could force one there. If you really wanted to do one, you could force one here. And I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying I'm using these as examples, right? Like these they don't come back. They don't come back. Okay, things come back on horizontals, not diagonals. And so that's what I'm looking at with these markers. So be mindful of that. We have the small consolidation again. We have the breach above on the 50 RSI. So things are looking really, really, really good here. And I can't emphasize this enough. I think I'm not going to call anybody crazy, but I think it's extremely mid curve to be super bearish right now. I just think so. So, and honestly, it's just as simple as that. Just some sort of couple diagonals, A rune, RSI, and then just go on. You don't need any of this fancy OI stuff, because a lot of that's gonna. The more complicated your data gets with that, the more you're going to start seeing what you want to see versus what the market is trying to tell you. Okay, because too many data sets can just you try to interpret a story, but you're the author of that story, right? Versus saying like, all right, the charts are doing this. There's something simplistic. Here's what the charts are telling me. The charts are the author. I am the reader. Okay, and so that's how you should interpret that. But the weekly is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and go to the daily for the Bitcoin section. And this is that diagonal that's kind of playing out here. And so again, we're getting very, very close. Depending on how you want to draw this, you could even emphasize this a little bit more prominent. But I prefer the closes here. I try to play it conservatively on that. Now, as far as key horizontal levels, here's pretty much your big level here. We actually broke above that zone. We don't actually want to break too much higher right now because this would be a deviation and then we would come back down. But that could cause a trap. So I think if we do come back above, we could round out past 67, 68, come back down to 65. That would satisfy everything, and it wouldn't cause a deviation, nothing of that effect. So um, I think I think that would be pretty good. So that's I, again, I think the markets look great here. I honestly think anything but is just a really weird take right now. And so I mean, we could reject here. Again, we do need confirmation, right? And so I want to emphasize that although they do look great, we need confirmation to continue rallying. Okay, that doesn't mean that we will reject. And if we do, that's going to be outside my bounds of expectations. It's something I would be prepared for if it did happen, but and this pertains to people that are sidelined. If you are sidelined right now, you still have some time. Okay, you don't have a lot of time, but you have enough to make a decision. And I say that for like as far as Aaron. Aaron just flipped the daily um, for the first time since I guess 2 weeks, so not that long, but that is crucial. For the weekly, we have not crossed yet. So I want to emphasize that you still have time. You might have a couple weeks, maybe a month. Like if this really rallies, if it rallies immediately from here, you might have still a week or two left. Okay. If it bounces a little bit, you might have a month. Okay. But you might not have that much. And so this is why, like the beginning of this cycle, actually, and I was, I think maybe even the last part of the last cycle, perhaps, I can't remember. I stopped caring about being so bearish and I started focusing on being not quite a permabull, but like kind of like a soft, like uh permeable, I guess. Not because I wanted things to be permeable, and not that I want to lie about it, because obviously I don't want to lie about it, but because if you get too consumed on the bearish price action, you will miss out on big moves. You will. Okay, bearish price action has limited downside. It can only go to zero. Okay, and even if you short from top to bottom, you're only getting 100%, right? Whereas you're going to get more than that for the upside. You're going to have a lot more fun doing it, and it's just better. Okay, bears have more fun. You make more money being a dumb bull than you do being a smart bear. So, and that's one reason I do this. It's not about being right. It's not about being smart. It's like you are here to make money, and for somebody like me, it's been here for 8 years. Like once you've been here for so long, like you just need to kind of man up and try to make money the best you can, and even try to enjoy it. So anyway, that's kind of this Bitcoin in the nutshell. Looking at the daily, weekly, the weekly in my opinion looks better than the daily. We could reject here, but I think that could be short lived. But we'll see where that goes. I think things are looking just fine here, and I can't wait to see what this looks at. And we need this as well for the rest of the market, because when Bitcoin does well, that should theoretically inject more into the market, including altcoins and meme coins. So anyway, so that's Bitcoin. Let's go to Ethereum. All right, we're going to go to Ethereum real quickly. This is a chart that we talked about in our our Apex Discord. It used to be called Nowhere. We looked at this on the 4 hour time frame here. And so this is something, actually, I think it may have been the 6 hour, but I'll just do 6 hour for clarity's sake. Um, and so this is what that looked like. Pretty good trade. It's working out pretty well. We'll see where this goes in the time, and as far as all that works out. But I am going to delete it for this video to kind of look at the rest of the charts here. And so we're going to start with the monthly on Ethereum again. And so this one's very interesting because we have a drop down here, much different than the Bitcoin and other markets right now. And so that's worth taking a look at. We had this order block structure here. And if we look at the mid, it actually retested the mid. For those of you that are in my premium channel, which is the paid channel, you guys know that retesting the middle of a marker on an order block is a huge part of my system for retest, and it worked out pretty good. I absolutely believe that this is the bottom. Okay, and I've said that, and I don't know if I said that too strongly in my Discord, but I have said that before, and so I think that that's a key area to look at, and we've had good resistance here so far. We have the bearish consolidation, not a big deal on the monthly, but this is still a full bull trend. This might actually come back up forward, But we have a big ways to go with this. In order to do that, we would have to get new highs, which means we'd have to go actually up here about 59, 60%. So I'm not too concerned. I do think the consolidation is real. I do think that we will get a bearish cross on the week on the monthly, but I think it will be a little bit of a weak one. Um, and again, RSI is holding around the 50 marker. This is the key area to look at. The 50 marker on RSI is one of the biggest, most important areas. And I got that from CBS, by the way, Cold Blooded Schiller. So if you don't follow him, you should. There's a good chance you follow him if you already follow me, because I have gotten a few things from him in my trading style. I used to be in, I had some light mentoring from him, and he's probably one of my favorite traders in the market. So shout out to him with that. But as far as this goes, I think this is looking pretty high or pretty good. I think this should pump back up probably to at least a 3,000 marker minimum on the monthly. Now let's go ahead and go to the weekly here and kind of look at this. And we have another trend line here. So this is not the best one, but overall, again, excuse me, it's the same emphasis as Bitcoin, same as total. We have trend line resistance that needs to be broken. Resistances in these ways are meant to be broken. So we have that to look for. And so we'll see how this goes. It looks stronger than it used to be, and that's saying a lot because Ethereum has been the weakest one of the group so far. A lot of people have been concerned about its success. And I think, again, it kind of goes what I said about the hyper bearish, attitude that people have. Like, I don't see why you should be super bearish after an 8-month consolidation. When even if we would go to, like, let's say 50,000, that wasn't that low already because we were already at like 55. So it's like, what are you doing? Like, the R&R just doesn't make sense, right? And so the same thing applies here. A lot of people were looking at, like, Ethereum just dying. I don't remember any price points offhand, but people were saying like Ethereum's going to die. But it's just like, now's the time to think that it's going to come back up. Okay, like I remember one of my biggest not mistakes, but one of my biggest regrets in the crypto trade. One of my first ones was that I had a chance to buy Ethereum at $84. I was looking at the chart. I was looking at it all night. I was actually at a Christmas party. And I was like, man, I could just buy this right now, but I'm too scared to buy it. Okay, and it went up, and now I would love to buy it now. And that's the thing, you can't be too scared to buy, especially when things are looking ripe. The R&R looks good. You need to take a chance because you're going to take a chance anyway. Okay, and that goes just for life in general. Like, people are just going to take a chance. So anyway, that's what I see on the weekly. It's looking pretty solid. We have not flipped the RSI on the 50 yet. That's probably going to be a key catalyst in doing that. So watch out for that. Now, on the daily here, here's that trend line push right at that zone. But we don't have any follow through just yet. I would like to see at least the trend line move above that. But again, really above the 2783 marker or the 2800 marker. We are above the RSI. The bullish wedge is looking pretty good. Not much else to say on the daily, honestly, versus the weekly. And if you want daily stuff, I do free videos 5 days a week in my Discord as well as the paid stuff. I do 5 free ones, I do 5 paid ones, and so I also do some on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. So watch out for that. But this is looking pretty good. When you have a wedge like this and you have the momentum change on the RSI, usually that's a sign of strength and momentum together. We're up 6% to reflect that. So that's Ethereum. Let's go to Solana. We're on to Solana. Now, these are the setups that I looked at in our Discord as well. And so the first one, this is the one that we did first, actually was doing pretty well. It kind of dropped back down really close to break even. We did not close it. So it's just more of a long-term trade. In response, we actually have a second position. And so that actually worked pretty well. It's almost to target. It'd be a 4R on top of the 6.4R. So we're kind of hovering right around, about 2.9. And so almost 3, and then another 2.7, so almost 6R total. I'm going to get rid of these for this video and kind of work on this. Again, going to the monthly setup here, this is what we're looking at. This one's a little more complicated here. There's more clarity on the weekly, right? But as far as this goes, we did have an order block section here. This is something that I've looked at before. We had the bullish breaker, so the price should have came down here. It did actually. It actually crossed several times here. It retested pretty close to the zone. And so as far as I'm concerned, this is a valid retest. sometimes it retests completely, or sometimes there's a lot of wicks. It just depends. Now, again, what I want to mention, we have a resistance zone right here. Very key. A lot of coins are doing this right now, and that's one reason why people get confused is because a lot of people don't put credibility to these trend line resistances, and I think that they should, because it helps you look at a breakout zone. Okay, it's where supply and demand are different, but that's where you can take advantage of that because the demand is going to soar from that zone. So that's how it works, and it's looking pretty good. Other than that, there's not really much else on the monthly. Let's go ahead and go to the weekly. And this is that resistance played out, so we still have some time with that. Um, you have very awkward levels here. This is pretty much it. Very similar to Bitcoin in that regard. But you have a lower level one, um, pretty much just here. You got your double bottom here, looking. I mean, it's still looking pretty good. This in particular, I had interest in. This is where the Avern is showing like a lack of trend. So like these are trend line, like they're not trend lines, but they show the trendiness of bullish candles and bearish candles. The blue is bullish, the black is bearish, and so when you go down and it kind of crunches up like this, that means there's really no trend and it's trying to find a big trend. The bulls won that trend, okay, and then the bears end up kind of answering pretty good, pretty strongly. So when you have a high bearish cross, that's when you got that zone, the big drop. The higher the cross, the sharper it is to the downside. Then we got a consolidation. So that makes me think that the Bears exhausted their entire move at that time, and so that's part of it. And actually, that was probably a response to the market at the time as well. So let's go ahead. Also, look, this is your resistance trend here, and so you actually have kind of like a continuation pattern. And so this is what I'm looking at with this zone. I think that we're going to get the breakout here. Very clear to me that that's, again, focus on simplicity. In addition to that, the RSI is hovering at the 50. Very simplistic. A lot of this stuff is very basic and simplistic, and it's just looking, pretty textbook. And that's the thing. Like some of the people that like, and it's happened recently. That's why I bring it up. Is like people are super bearish here, and again, we could go down, but people are reacting to these things, um, and they're given like 20 different data points where they spend money to look at all this extra detailed data, and it doesn't do you any good. And then you just make excuses when it doesn't go the way that you thought it was. Well, it's because of this instead of this, and that's why too much data can be problematic for you. Like data can be helpful, of course, but you need to know how to manage that data. That's what I'm trying to kind of explain throughout this video. So let's go ahead and go to the daily to round out Solana. This is that continuation pattern here. Little complicated here, so I'm going to get rid of that, extend this out. And so this is the marker that we have with this. So here is your level here. This is a very familiar level for those of you in Discord. You do kind of have this bouncing ball pattern to like descending triangle. I don't agree with that. That doesn't always work that way for one. But you have a clear level right here of interest, and this is the level that we need to look at. A couple lower highs, and so we need to break above that zone. If we can break above 163 and a half or 164, I think things will be completely fine. So we will navigate with that hopefully in the next week or so. But until then, we're in this kind of range, and so that's basically it. Again, breach above the 50 RSI, wedge, things are looking pretty solid here. So that's Solana. Okay, it's I think it looks pretty clean. I think all three of these look pretty great, honestly. Now Sui may be a different story. We'll get into what that means and all that. So, but that is Solana. Let's go ahead and go to Sui. All right, so now we are on Sui, and as you can see, this chart looks a little bit different. Let me see if I can get a better chart for you. I'm not quite sure. That's about the same, so I'm going to keep it to this because I like the KuCoin chart here. Now, a few things that we can note. First of all, we are at all-time high, and so that's good. Second of all, as far as trend line rules, I have a rule where if it goes above the zone, it'll probably stop. So the ceiling on this is going to be 2.58 or probably just 260 to round up. May even get 3 with a wick, seeing how this is the monthly time frame. So that's kind of my frame of reference with that, right? And so now we also have a Darvis box play as well. And so that's an area that I look at where if we break a new high, that's longable um, until you get a fake out or some sort of weakness, right? And so that is contrary to the trend line resistance. We could break that trend. As I've said, trend lines are meant to be broken in a sense, and especially if we get to a new cycle in the market in a bull run, that would certainly be the case. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for the monthly. There's not much too else to tell with this. Now, I kind of want to visit the 2 week just a little bit to give us a little bit extra perspective. And so this is what I'm talking about. You have the trend line resistance here. It's breaking above the zone. We still have 6 days to go. So this could come back down very easily. We do have a bullish cross here, so that's very important. And so I don't think it's a bad thing to hold SUI right now. I do think it is high risk, but I versus other coins, especially Solana and Ethereum, which especially Ethereum, where it's only at 2,600, like it's just slightly I don't know how 30 or 40% under where it's high, where SUI's already made a new high. Now of course SUI could have a higher ceiling. I think that's perfectly possible, but we'll see where that goes. I don't see why you couldn't buy all of them anyway. So you could just work that out in the market. So, and this is pretty much it with the 2 week chart as well. I'm going to put this in an order block and kind of go to the weekly and see how that looks. So that doesn't work out too well. So I'm going to get rid of it. But we have the bearish divergence here. That was the key. We had this rounded bottom, and then we breached back to the upside. So now this became your swing high order block. So that's good. Bear consolidation here, but nothing too fancy with that. I will go to the daily because that's going to be where the meat of the data is, and kind of work with this zone. So that was this divergence that played out. That was a deviation. And so this is one where we had the divergence here. We were setting up a deviation and then it faked out. So that's one reason. That's the biggest difference here is that we did have a bear consolidation. We actually had a hidden bull div as well, but neither one of those really worked out. We had a deviation ready to go, but then it kind of bounced back about up, away from that. Now, that being said, we still have a big divergence in play here, and so I think that's critical. I think that we could come back down, especially since we kind of rallied a little extra fast. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to ask. Here's the marker for that. Get rid of this one for clarity's sake. So I think that we could come back down to the $2 range, or 2.2 cents to 7 to 10, somewhere around there. So probably 2.4 to 2.7 in that zone. So I think that that's going to be a key area to kind of get that retest, and that's going to be good for the whole thing, because you're going to get a valid retest that's going to help you with the long term, right? Because a rally too high isn't necessarily a good thing, but the RSI is giving you a different picture than it is for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and that's probably one reason why we're getting a -4.5 instead of a +4.5, is because it already showed us a pump for the past long time. If you forego this, I mean, it's pretty much been nonstop, since middle of September for 120%. So I think a 10% cool off is completely reasonable. So anyway, so that's SUI. Very simplistic with that one. Let's go ahead and summarize the video. All right, so taking a look at the markets, we discussed total, which I won't share on the chart, but we emphasized the idea that we are approaching a critical range. A lot of weekly setups are in just kind of all the charts in general have some sort of trend line resistance that we're looking at. And that's a key structure, especially on the weekly time frames. Once we can break this weekly, I think all bets are off for any sort of bearish price action at all, and then we can continue to rally. So Bitcoin's looking pretty good. If we break above the zone, we're going to hit probably 75, 80,000, possibly 100,000. And so we can see where that goes. I can easily see us going to 100,000 by the end of this year. Let's go to Ethereum. You're a little bit trapped underneath the zone, but I mentioned on the monthly how I think this is the bottom, and that we're going to rally to at least 3,000, if not more, and that's only $400 away. But I think that we can continue. Another thing I didn't mention before is this almost is like a really huge continuation pattern, so just keep that in mind. Maybe that's not too structurally sound, but the weekly, again, emphasis targeting the mid. resistance potentially going up. A lot of these have some sort of resistance trend line. We could reject. I think that that's easy to say, but I do think the odds of that are actually low in comparison to other times where we had the same situation. A lot of these are above the 50 RSI on the momentum. So the momentum is in favor, the A is in favor. Almost everything is in favor for a break. Okay, and obviously there's no guarantee, but the odds are favorable to upside potential. So Solana, again, you have a creep above here. You have a double top consolidation at resistance, so looking pretty good there. Your daily setup is that's how that is as well. Sui was the only one that was kind of the difference here, and you can see that where it's like literally the only red. Oh, there's a few of them here, but really the only red one. Really, it's just a breakout retest. I think that's as simple as it is. I think that we could go down about to the $2.02 range, which I think could be like, yeah, almost 10%. I guess 10%. So I think we'll get about a 10% drop there and rally from there. So anyway, so that is the video. I hope you enjoyed this. And I welcome commentary, things like that. Let me know what you think. If you're not in my Discord, go ahead and join. I'll leave a link in the description for the free Discord. If you want the paid option, I'll also leave a link for that in the WAP store. I also have scripts as well. You can check those out. So I hope you have a good week. And most importantly, I hope you make money. I'll see you next time.